Empoweristas, it's Alex Worley, and I am joined by Anna Kasparian. She is a host and producer for the Young Turks and was recently named to Forbes 30 Under 30 list. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
That's awesome. And I love your story because you really are an example of starting from the bottom and working your way up. You started as a producer at the Young Turks, so tell me about that journey from producer to host.
Yeah, so everything in my career happened both by hard work and luck. And I think that a lot of people need to keep that in mind because there are certain opportunities that kind of come your way and you have to grab that opportunity and see if it leads to anything bigger. So when I was fresh out of college, I was actually working at CBS Radio, and I didn't really love my job there. I was an assistant producer and I felt like I wasn't doing enough. What I was contributing to the company didn't qualify as journalism or anything that really benefited society. So I heard about a job opportunity at the Young Turks, which was a startup at the time, and they just needed a temporary fill-in producer. One of the main producers there, J.R. Jackson, was gonna go off on vacation for 2 weeks, and so I was open to it. I thought, hey, I'll make some extra money, I'll work 2 jobs, and I can save up for a trip to Europe. Well, I show up to the Young Turks and I loved it. It was just everything that I wanted in media because it really revolved around truth-telling. And so when the 2 weeks at that temporary position were up, I just kind of stepped up and asked the CEO if he would be willing to hire me part-time. And I told him I would do anything. I just want to be part of this company. And he hired me part-time. That eventually turned into a full-time production gig. And I was also doing some marketing, even though I had no experience in marketing whatsoever. And little by little, I kind of worked my way up, and eventually they gave me 1 segment on the show. That 1 segment turned into an hour on the show. And then all of a sudden I realized, okay, well, the types of topics I cover are not really my favorite. I'm not really into celebrity gossip. I want to do more social commentary or political news. So little by little, I would sneak in the political stories. And then voila, there's the 2nd hour of the Young Turks. And I've been the host for almost a decade now.
That's amazing. There's so much that I love about what you just said. First of all, I love that you were bold enough to just ask for a job, which is a lot of times really, really scary to do.
Definitely.
I love that you found the hidden opportunities and it just escalated from there. And also, I think when you're just starting out, experience is one of the most valuable things. It trumps money, it trumps prestige, just get experience. And that's what you slowly but surely did.
Absolutely. I think that in the beginning of your career, and even, a decade in, it's important to say yes to everything. So if you get an opportunity, even if you have a few suspicious thoughts about it, be open-minded, give it a try. Of course, in the beginning, you're not going to get paid for everything you do, but having that experience under your belt and being able to list all the different experiences that you've had kind of opens more doors for you. And, again, it's so important to ask. If there's something that you think you're qualified for, or even if you're not qualified for it, go into the boss's office and just be like, hey, I'm inspired by what you guys are doing. I want to be part of this. And I don't care where I need to start within the company. I just want to get in. And 9 out of 10 times, they're going to give you an opportunity because that shows initiative.
And it was that truth-telling that first drew you to the Young Turks, and that's the reason really why you're staying, because I read that you've gotten other job offers.
Yeah.
You could be making even more money.
Yes.
But there's something about the Young Turks and their style of journalism and truth-telling that really draws you. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so at the Young Turks, I have a lot of editorial freedom, and that's important to me because I'm the kind of person who needs to speak my mind. I can't be censored in any way. And so, the 2nd hour of the Young Turks is the main part of the show that I host, but I don't just host it, I also produce it. And so I get to choose which stories are going to make it in the rundown. Of course, we have a lot of collaboration as well, but ultimately, I decide what I want to cover and what I don't want to cover. And I'm also allowed to analyze those stories and provide commentary without any worry of, a board of investors coming after me or my boss coming after me. I can literally say whatever I feel, whatever I want. And that truth-telling is what I think is the main point of journalism. It's speaking truth to power.
And that's lacking in a lot of mainstream journalism, right?
Yes.
Tell me about how maybe there's some misrepresentation or underrepresentation going on in a lot of the cable networks, for instance.
Sure. Well, I think that there is independent media and corporate media, and there's a huge difference between the two. Because with independent media, you don't necessarily have certain corporate interests, you know, contributing to the show and telling you what you can and can't say. So cable news, of course, is part of the corporate media, and part of the reason why you get kind of filtered coverage, whether it's on the election or anything else, is because you have certain advertisers that pay your, you know, network so you can keep operating, you can keep paying people salaries, but at the same time, you're not allowed to be truthful and honest about certain issues that might anger that sponsor or that advertiser. So a good example of that would be oil companies. Sometimes you're watching CNN and you'll see an ad for an oil company and you're like, well, what are they selling the consumer? That doesn't really make any sense. And it's not about selling anything to the consumer, it's about making sure they continue to control the anchors on that network, the producers on that network, so they don't say anything negative about drilling for oil or, you know, mining for coal, that kind of stuff.
I think it's really important for a woman to stick to her values, because there's all these different voices from society, from your parents, from whoever, telling you what you should feel is success. Money, fame, whatever it may be. So what advice do you have for a woman when it comes to sticking to her values?
I think that if your values are important to you and, you know, it's something that drives you, then of course it's important to stick to your values. And at the end of the day, you have to live with yourself and you have to live with your decisions. And so for someone like me, my position in the media is really powerful and it's influential, and I can really change people's lives or people's perspectives based on what I do. And so I have to be principled because I don't want to lead anyone in the wrong direction. I don't want to give anyone the wrong information. And I think that you are absolutely going to be tempted by financial reasons or, you know, fame, fortune, whatever it is, to kind of let your principles go and move toward, you know, a more glamorous or glitzy life. But I mean, I'll be the first to say it's not worth it. It's really not. Because I want to be able to retire one day and look back at my career and feel really proud about it and say to myself, hey, I didn't do this for self-interest. I did this because I think that I had some impact on the world that was positive.
And every year you become more influential and more known, and that's not always easy. I mean, you just made Forbes 30 under 30 list, and sometimes that comes with some backlash. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely, you know, someone who deals with a lot of negative commentary online. I've noticed that, you know, the more successful I become, the more resentful certain individuals become online. And so they'll attack me through social media. And some of those attacks have even turned into in-person physical attacks. And I've had to deal with that on a few different occasions this year. But those are all individuals that are trying to discourage you from doing what you love. And for me, quitting or, you know, running away from the things that I love allows them to win, and I'm not interested in that. You know, I think that you have to be a strong person and you have to recognize the trolls for what they are. They're trolls. And if you're angering people, you're doing something right, you know? So I just try to keep that positive mindset, even though, I mean, I'm human. I have my days where I feel discouraged myself and sometimes I feel tempted to give up. But giving up allows the naysayers to win, and you can't let that happen.
That's amazing, and that's also so brave, because I feel like so many people, especially when it gets to the point where there's a physical attack, could easily and probably justifiably be like, all right, enough's enough, I'm done. But you are able to still have that courage. What is that just keeps you going?
I think I'm just super defiant, and I'm also stubborn, and I think that
and sometimes it's a good thing.
It is. Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's not a good thing. But I think that considering the fact that I've been in this game for 10 years and I've worked really hard to get to where I am, there's no way I would ever, you know, turn my back on my career because of what someone said to me online. You know, I just look at those people for what they are, and overall, they're losers. So you just kind of have to like take them for what they are and move on.
Well, and it's hard to hear the truth, and it's hard to hear opinions that are different than their own.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that that's sometimes why those people feel threatened versus just understanding that it's okay if somebody has a different opinion.
Of course. And I like, just to be clear, you know, there are the trolls, the people who have no constructive criticism whatsoever, and then there are people who might disagree with my commentary or disagree with my analysis,
but respectfully.
And they're respectful, and I actually love those comments because they help me grow as a member of the media. They help educate me and be better at my job, and that's what I want. And so I don't want anyone to mistake my, you know, comments regarding trolls as comments including people who share constructive criticism. I think disagreements are healthy as long as they're shared in a respectful way.
Totally. So you've been covering the election, obviously.
Yeah.
We're at both of the national conventions. Has that just been a whirlwind and totally crazy?
Yes, it's definitely been crazy, I'll say that. It's been very overwhelming, especially considering that I'm planning a wedding this year.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I have the regular show that I host on a regular basis. I write columns, I'm doing election coverage. We're about to launch a show with Fusion TV, and it's an election-based show. So there's a lot happening, but I will say that this election is a very important one because of how unique it is. I think that this is a time in America where we really have to decide whether we are willing to hit rock bottom or if we're willing to push for real political change. And so we'll see what happens.
What do you think are the biggest issues affecting women in this election?
I would say that the top issue affecting women would be money in politics. And it doesn't specifically affect women, it affects every single American in the US. But when you have a system of government where corporate interests are able to get more representation than the average citizen, well then our politicians will never represent us. They're never going to look out for us. They're never going to be concerned with things like paid maternity and paternity leave. They're never going to ensure that, you know, we increase wages for minimum wage earners. And so if we get money out of politics and we stop allowing corporations to flex their muscle and pay politicians to look out for them, well then I think we'll finally have politicians that have policy ideas that look out for us, policy ideas that really benefit us. And it is kind of crazy that the US is the only industrialized country that does not offer paid maternity and paternity leave. I mean, it's discouraged me from having kids, and so I don't know what the future holds for me in that regard, but we need real change. We need our politicians to look out for us.
Well said.
Thank you.
And lastly, what is your definition of empowerment?
For me, empowerment is feeling brave enough and courageous enough to speak truth to power, and never being afraid to say what's on your mind and speak the truth.
Amazing. Anna, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Alex.
So fun. Let us know what your definition of empowerment is using hashtag Empowerista, and we'll show you some social media love.